This is another chapter in our series about 1919 and the race riots in Wales, the UK and the world, and the events around them. This one is entitled Black Lives Matter, American Government and Bolshevism, Connected Riots 1919, World War II and American Presidents. Now, Black America fought for America. African Americans have fought for the USA whenever the country was at war, including the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, both World Wars, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, and the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as many other minor conflicts. Now, we've been looking at the race riots of 1919 and the global environment as it affected black and minority people across the world. For African Americans in the USA, war was a time to try to prove their value to the nation, but that contribution was not rewarded. In this chapter of our ongoing story about 1919's consequences, we're taking that forward from 1919 to today. There's a continuing government line that is now being restated by the current Attorney General. Now, back in World War I, the 369th Infantry Regiment, formerly known as the 15th New York National Guard Regiment and commonly known as the Harlem Hellfighters, fought in World War I. They also fought in World War II. The regiment consisted mainly of African Americans, though it also included several Puerto Rican Americans during World War II. In World War I, the 369th spent 191 days in frontline trenches, more than any other American unit. They also suffered the most losses of any American regiment, with 1,500 casualties. In 1919, after the initial excitement and awards associated with returning heroic black soldiers and the cordial welcome they first received, which sadly quickly turned into the Red Summer and riots and lynchings across America, which included, as I say, more than 36 race riots in American cities. Now, when we say race riots, we mean white people attacking black people. As African Americans realized that President Wilson's notion of democracy did not extend to them, they started to evolve a collective will to fight back against the mob rather than turn the other cheek, which was the past experience. But the government of America made itself clear. The FBI reported that leftist views were winning converts in the black community and that the NAACP was urging coloured people to insist upon equality with white people and to resort to force if necessary. J. Edgar Hoover, then a middle management FBI agent, analysed the riots for the Attorney General, blaming the Washington, D.C. riots on numerous assaults committed by Negroes upon white women. For the October events in Arkansas, he blamed certain local agitation in a Negro lodge. A more general cause he cited was propaganda of a radical nature. He charged that socialists were feeding propaganda to black-owned magazines, such as The Messenger. Now, the press reacted to black people fighting back when attacked in riots, and in August 19, the Wall Street Journal wrote, "Race riots seem to have for their genesis a Bolshevist, a Negro, and a gun." Consistently, the American people's hatred of communism was used to deny black people's right of self-defense. Another constitutional right denied them. As the Times stated, every week the militant leaders gain more headway. They may be divided into general classes. One consists of radicals and revolutionaries. They are spreading Bolshevist propaganda. It is reported that they are winning merry recruits among the coloured race. On the 17th of November 1919, Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer reported to Congress on the threat that anarchists and Bolsheviks posed to the government. More than half the report documented radicalism in the black community and the, in quotes, open defiance, close quotes, black leaders advocated in response to racial violence and the summer's riotings. During the Red Summer of 1919, President Wilson recruited Palmer. In reaction to the domestic unrest, Palmer created the General Intelligence Unit and recruited J. Edgar Hoover to head this new FBI organization. Beginning in November 1919, Palmer launched a series of raids that rounded up and deported numerous suspected radicals. There are similarities between 1919 and 2020. An economy affected by war, a pandemic, in the First World War it was Spanish flu, and civil unrest. The President, the Attorney General, the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, a network of presidential appointments, all locating blame for riots, lynchings and race acts on black people. 100 years later, so little has changed, and old tactics seem to continually resurface. Let's move forward. It's August 2020, and when asked about Black Lives Matter and the idea they are opposed to President Trump's administration, US Attorney General Barr said they are a revolutionary group that is interested in some form of socialism, communism. They're essentially Bolsheviks. Their tactics are fascistic. His reaction to the media, who criticised the administration's response to Black Lives Matter? Quote, "The media has looked at our efforts to bring justice to the streets and then equate that to what they refer to as jackboot federal agents going in to crush protesters. The media have demonstrated that they are all in with the violent Marxist movement in our country." President Trump has described Black Lives Matter as a symbol of hate. That was on the 1st of July 2020. He's also linked Black Lives Matter demonstrations to the increasing level of COVID-19 across America. Despite the fact they're not the only ones demonstrating, there are certainly many white supremacists and other groups who are demonstrating. However, the point of this project is not to criticise current governments. Our intention is to show that techniques adopted in 1919 after the race riots in major democracies have provided a blueprint for attacking black people who demonstrate or resist attacks upon their rights and person. And in the context of America, certain themes are consistent because they're attempting to reach the, in quotes, ordinary American. The hatred of communism, the collapse of the economy, and street demonstrations. When black people are involved in any way, the apparatus of the White House and the Attorney General seeks to make them responsible rather than to suggest their concerns might well be discussed and rectified. Thank you.